TTB Music Podcast.
It's where you get the feedback of the headphones of the kind of thing playing back. It's so loud. Thinking it's playing back to the headphones. Yes.
Which thing? Oh, the thing thing.
The thing thing.
That thing that was just thinging.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
As we smoothly.
Yeah.
You're getting good at this.
Yeah,
It's only been 5-6 years, and it's still kind of.
Still sounds amateur.
It's just Happy New Year, everybody. We're back, and we're back with only 3 albums in this podcast. Partly because, as per usual, for our first one of the new year, we're also going to be looking at the BBC Sounds of 2016 list, including the top 5. But unlike previous years, we're not going to run through each one. We're going to do more of a kind of, did anybody stand out or not stand out for us individually, as it may happen. Then we're going to do 3 albums: Hinds, Leave Me Alone, Savages, Adore Life, and David Bowie, Blackstar. At which point we'll obviously get to the he's dead bit. Spoiler alert.
That was a loving tribute.
I know.
Yeah.
So let's start on a positive note. The BBC Sounds of 2016. As regular listeners, I'm sure, are aware, this is the BBC's annual poll of a collection of music critics and industry figures to identify new talent, promising, exciting new talent, or at least that's what supposedly the claim was. Started back in 2003, when Fiddy won. 50 Cent, yeah. Beating out Electric Six, Yeah Yeahs, The Thrills, and Dizzy Rascal, of all things.
Quite a lineup.
That wasn't a bad top 5.
It's not a bad top 5, is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
One of the better top 5s, it has to be said, if you look back over the years.
I've actually heard of all of them,
Yeah.
as my dad would say.
Other past winners clearly have been Adele, Ellie Goulding, Jessie J, as well as Keane and The Bravery.
Wow.
And we wouldn't see them live.
It was an accident if we did.
Yes, as in Depeche Mode Sport Act, I believe.
Yeah.
Wembley.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone out there has still got their Bravery albums.
Yeah?
No.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, the whole thing has suffered over the years from accusation that it's heavily weighed in favour of mainstream performers and artists who have already sort of broken through or have a brand new album coming out kind of imminently. We should get on to that in a moment. So, for those who want to know, the top 5 were Joint 5 Western and Mura Nasa, 4 Blossoms, 3 Neo, 2 Alicia Cara, and number 1 Jack Garrett. And there were 9 other acts as well. So, amongst the top 5 that were a top 6, or elsewhere, did anybody capture your imagination, make you interested in hearing anything by them ever again, or
Say something positive. No.
it's kind of underwhelming,
Where
isn't
to
it?
begin with this lot? Welcome to 2016, folks. What a rubbish month this has been for a music fan. More on that later. I'm sort of plucking at straws here. Mura Nasa,
Yeah.
great vocalist. Really, very, very listenable. Blossoms, there was a kind of 80s thing going on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you know. Which I didn't mind actually. I actually thought, this is quite enjoyable. I could listen to an album of this, and I'm sure you'll make me do that at some point.
Well, I don't know. Okay, well, I was kind of thinking, modern day Tears for Fears.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely. That's sort of ding ding ding.
But obviously that is kind of an insult to Tears for Fears a bit.
Yes.
And also, as I mentioned before we went live, also I have a feeling they're a bit like 1975 in the fact that they clearly have something about them.
Yeah.
But whether or not it's enough to kind of make them rise above the kind of parapet is another kind of
Absolutely.
question. Although I think the song "At Most a Kiss" is quite catchy, and I have hummed a few times today.
Good. Yes.
And at least they're a band.
And they are a band, which is nice.
Yeah, there's a lack of bands.
There's been a lack of bands in this list for quite some time, and in fact, there's a lack of new bands, as we say, practically every year. And then we get to Jack Garrett.
Yes, we get to Jack Garrett.
Choice there, which seems a little unfair, considering he was all over our television screens not that long ago.
Yeah, this goes back pretty much what I was saying about the. I mean, I actually should say that I did send you an email, didn't I? At this when the list was came out at the start of the year, and the top 5 was about first act of the top 5 was about to be announced, and I said, well, clearly we'll do this as per usual, and it will be obviously winner Jack Garrett plus whichever 4 other acts they've chosen.
You did.
For that very reason, Joe Wiley and the rest of the Radio 1, Radio 2, 6 Music DJs have been fawning all over Jack Garrett for 6-9 months or so. And he's obviously a very talented bloke. Can play all his instruments. Obviously, there's a clear mixture of kind of musical influences going on there. There's obviously had that whole Disclosure thing clearly going on some of the tracks. Chemical, particularly. I thought of that. Obviously, hints of Jamie Woon and James Blake as well. Mm-hmm. Previous people that have been on this list. I think the song "Weathered" kind of is a slightly more interesting track. There seems to be more going on musically in that. But I remember thinking when I saw clips of him live at Glastonbury, that kind of classic thing when he's there with his little computer, and his little keyboard and his guitar, and it was that kind of thinking. Just because you can do everything yourself doesn't necessarily mean you should do everything yourself.
Yeah, I quite admire the talent. Obviously,
oh, absolutely, yes.
You know, to be able to do that, to be able to play one instrument well, is genius. To play several all at the same time is just awesome. So you know, deserves the plaudits, deserves the success. I'm just not sure he deserves to win this list because it seems a little bit unfair.
Yeah, and compared to some of the other pins, and there's a slightly disappointing thing about this whole list for me was there was not nobody that really sounded different in any way, and I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. I mean, some of the stuff was all right. I mean, if you just take the top 5, you've got the young lady Nao.
Yeah.
Very much hints of kind of Janet Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Prince going on. Really nice kind of smooth R&B tunes territory. Not really my kind of go-to everyday kind of listening. But, you know, I thought Inhale, Exhale track, really nice. Yes. Good song. Interestingly, she appears also on Mura Nasser's stuff as a guest singer. Similarly, Elisa Cara, who's a Canadian 19-year-old. I like the fact that here does what Portishead and Tricky have done before, which is sampling Isaac Hayes' Rap 2 as the main musical theme. Yeah. But then the rest of her stuff seemed to fall into that kind of Amy Winehouse, Mark Ronson type sound that has been quite prevalent over the last couple of years. And there are a couple of other artists in the list, and Izzy Bizu and Dua Lipa, who also sounded a bit like that to me. Right. In the wider list, outside of the top 5, equally Billy Martin and Francis, who are both in that kind of acousticy, probably early Ellie Goulding type sound.
That was missing from the top 5 because that's been a consistent staple of the top 5 for the last few years. Is that where's the big acoustic one? We've not had it.
No, and I also thought that
there's a change.
I would have had Section Boys in place of Western as the kind of the rap number in the top 5 as well. Because I thought they were slightly more interesting. And Rap Boy, which was quite funny. It was kind of like a Jamie T meets the Streets kind of cheeky chappy punk rap thing.
So that sounds more interesting already. The way you've just described it.
Again, not very original, but but quite fun.
I didn't think Western were that original either, to be honest.
No, I didn't think they were that good particularly.
We'll squeeze them in on number 6. You know?
Yeah, it's joint number 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you, I mean, my overall impression was that I was fairly underwhelmed by the whole list. Never mind the eventual top 5, 6 this year. I thought it was one of the weakest lists we've had.
Yeah.
And certainly the least interesting musically lists we've had.
So everyone's going to be a success?
Probably, yeah. You know, they're all going to be absolutely huge, and we're going to be really annoyed.
Yeah.
Or perhaps not. So, let's get on to some new music, proper new music. And a 4-piece all-girl band from Madrid, of all places.
Oh, really? Right, I didn't know that.
Called Hinds.
Yeah.
That's Hinds as opposed to Hinds the baked beans.
And you clarified that.
Yeah, and the album is called Leave Me Alone. It's the debut album. And the question is, should we leave it alone?
Say something positive. I was going to say, yes. No. This album strongly reminded me of Always. Remember that?
I wouldn't say it's strongly, but I have written in my notes,
Yeah.
always, but without the songs.
Yeah. Not the impact isn't there. So let's not review a band we've already done and talk nice things about them. I listened to this album a couple of times, and it was a perfectly fine record, but no, didn't have an impact on me at all.
No,
sort of faded into the background.
Yeah, fading in the background is a very good description of the way I felt about it as well, because it just washed over me. And I think I listened to it 4 times, including one final listen today. I realised that whilst I was listening to it, I totally drifted off and started thinking about something totally unrelated. And then kind of came back in and zoned back in at one point. And it ended, and I kind of thought, okay, I've now listened to this 4 times, and thinking,
right.
I couldn't hum
No.
a single note of it. I couldn't tell you a single line from it lyrically. And it just, the thing about the Always album was that had that same kind of lo-fi, early Liz Phair kind of vibe to it. But there were hooks, there were songs there to kind of like just grab you and pull you in. Yeah. Whereas this sounded a bit...
I'm humming Marry Me Archie now in my head. You know.
Whereas this just seemed to lack that. I mean, there was definitely some fun there. I like the kind of almost haphazard vocal style where they're all kind of seem almost single over top of each other at some points.
Sort of throws together, and it, it had a pop jingly jangly sound running through it, which was not unpleasant.
But overall, I was just thinking, this isn't going to be anywhere in my end of year lists.
No. No.
Well, unless this is a really bad year. So if you get to the end of the year and that is anywhere in my top 20, you know that it's been a really dreadful year for music.
Yeah.
So we'll move on
Swiftly.
and it's actually sticking with ladies.
Yeah.
Another
what was it with this podcast?
Yeah, another all-girl band, 4-piece, this time from London, although their lead singer is from London via Paris. And Savages is the second album from them. They were on the 2013 Sounds of 2000 long list, funny enough.
No way.
Which featured Laura Mvula, Churches, and then Haim. That was a very good.
Yeah, that was a very
top 5.
Good year. Yeah.
But anyway, so it's understandable why they possibly didn't make it into that. The first album, Silence Yourself, was a huge critical success. And I have to say I bought it on the basis of the hype without actually hearing any of it. And then didn't rate it at all.
Yeah.
It sounded just very much like a kind of second-rate Susie and the Banshees album to me, with nods at Joy Division here and there. And I had a inkling at that particular point that they were very much going to be a kind of one-trick pony type band. So I was quite pleased to discover on playing Adore Life for the first time that this was immediately a more interesting record musically than the first record for me. Obviously, there's still a lot of Susie and the Banshees going on, but there's also hints of kind of Patti Smith, The Smiths, Nick Cave, PJ Harvey going on as well. And that very much early 80s British indie vibe is very much to the fore.
Very much new wave, yeah.
Yeah. But they seem to kind of own it better on this record than I thought they did on the first album. And the collection of songs on this record, which is very much a collection of kind of dark, brooding love songs, really, kind of theme that kind of goes through the album. Overall is pretty good. So it starts off with The Answer, which is basically a kind of bounding, kind of in-your-face kind of riff that's just repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over to the point of tedium.
Yeah.
But actually, it surprisingly works quite well, particularly on multiple listens, and I quite liked it. And throughout the album, I had this feeling where I kind of really liked one track, was kind of indifferent to a track, really liked one track, was indifferent to a track.
Yeah.
And kind of went all the way through the album. So I got The Answer, Sad Person, the kind of title track, although it isn't, because the album's called Adore Life, and the song on the album's called Adore, but I think Adore, the actual track, I think is the standout song on the record for me. I think it's a great track, which includes having, bizarrely, a little bit of Smithsy type vibe sprinkled through it. And also, I think it's I Need Something New and When in Love as well, which are also in the middle of the album, which I think are really kind of strong tunes that again seem to deliver the perfect mix between the kind of let's play something loud and kind of in your face with her kind of, like I said, it is very kind of Susie,
very
vocal style and kind of tone to her voice. So I quite like this record, and I think it is an album that will actually improve. My opinion of it will improve with continued listens. So again, whilst it probably might not be high up in my end of year lists, it is something that I probably will listen to again.
Oh, cool. I have to agree with practically everything you said. I actually thought it was an album where I differ. I actually thought it was an album that improved the longer it went on.
Okay.
I actually thought by the sort of mid of the second half, as it were, I was really enjoying this record, and I thought it built up as it went over. I don't know if there's a theme to this. Just looking down at the notes here, it talks about love is the answer. You know that for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously,
unlike you to get the Todd Rundgren references in before me. And it's for me, that sort of theme builds across the record, and that's what keeps it really interesting. So vocally, yes, I like. There's enough to keep you interested. Yes, you do find that every other track sort of alternates between really liking and so thriller and then filler. Really enjoyed the last track as well, actually, the sort of big, sort of sweeping-y, ballady one. Yes.
Mechanics.
Yes, it's a really lovely song.
Yeah, really lovely song. Really nice way to close out the album as well. So obviously, yes, this could get me in my top 20, I suppose. So I'm in a similar position to you. I will listen to this one again.
Okie dokie. So, that's the filler done.
That's the filler. Here comes the thriller.
Yeah. And the 25th and now, sadly, final solo album from David Bowie. I'm sure most of our listeners will be aware the album came out on his birthday on the 8th of Jan, and then unfortunately he died a couple of days later on the Monday. And the album has now gone to number one, obviously, in various places, including America. First number one album in America, which is again sad that he had to die to achieve that. Yeah. The question is, do you think the album would have deserved to reach that point, regardless of him dying or not, Pete?
Thanks for setting me up like that. Cheers. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Okay, let's just talk about the album first and foremost.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is a number one record. Obviously, it is now everywhere.
Yes, it is.
But I do think this is a damn fine record, and it's a real grower as well. I have to say, when I first played it, I was perhaps a little bit more sceptical. I thought, he's pushed off into avant-garde and experimental territory again.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. So it does make me wonder: is this the closest we're ever going to get now to that long-mooted sequel to Outside?
Yeah,
Quite possibly.
yes, quite almost certainly. I think
It's definitely one of his more interesting albums, and when you sort of put it alongside, as everyone has now done, but one could argue you could have done this anyway, the previous record, The Next Day. You really do get a span of his entire career. You have the sort of very retrospective The Next Day, and then you have this, which is very much going forward.
Yes.
Sue, or A Season of Crime, we've heard before because it was on the Greatest Hits compilation last year.
Yeah, well that and
nicely seeded.
well that and "'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore,"
Yes.
which was the B-side of the Sue single as well.
Yeah,
so they're both in both different versions. It has to be said, very different versions to the versions that appear on this album.
Yeah, very different versions. But so we already had a taste of the word. But I think the standout for most people on his 69th birthday, and thereafter, but let's focus on the there and then, was Lazarus, which is a very shocking, sort of unnerving record, and even more so now.
Yeah.
And again, he just classic Bowie. Just when you think he's doing an experimental album, but again, a bit like Outside, he closes with a slice of middle of the road 80s Bowie.
Yes.
With the "I Can't Give Everything Away," which again now has another meaning. But and just when you don't think you know where you are, he delivers a really good send off in terms of the album.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. I mean, I really like this record. I mean, I'm partly pleased that I actually on January the 9th tweeted that how much I was enjoying the record, so that I'd probably got the "yes, I'm enjoying this record" before he died in. So it wasn't just kind of jumping on a bandwagon going, "Yes, I really like this record now because it's his final record."
Yeah.
But I did have a slightly similar experience to you. In the first, I listened to it the day it came out, and was kind of don't know.
Yeah.
And the following day, I had to do. I was trying to finish off a piece of freelance writing that I was doing, so I literally had the album on loop for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's a 40-minute album, so got through quite a few listens of it, and I think by kind of the third listen, I was just thinking, this is great.
Yeah.
This is just
a real grower.
Yes, this is just marvellous. And thinking, actually, some of this is really, really catchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at first you're thinking, because again, obviously with Blackstar and even to be you're thinking a bit like the original version of Sue, I suppose, when you're thinking, this is very purposely trying to avoid all tunes and just try and be weird.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Bowie is all about tunes.
Yes.
Even when he's not. Bizarrely, he naturally writes melodies and interesting melodies, and they're throughout this record from Blackstar, which is the kind of 10 minutes essentially track, which doesn't really feel like 10 minutes. It starts off, and again it's a very kind of dark, brooding atmospheric, and you get the first hints of Danny McCaslin. Is it McCaslin? Sax playing. He's the star of this record, really. His sax playing pervades the whole album, in and out, and is bringing that kind of jazziness to it. Even though this album is much less jazzy than, say, the original version of Sue, which is very jazzy. Whereas on the cut down version on the album, it's turned into a rock piece that would not have been out of place on Earthling. It's very drum and bassy as well. But back to Blackstar, you've got that bit when it's suddenly into the middle, you get the whole kind of I'm a Blackstar. Oh, which again is just lovely, just pop music in the middle, in the middle of this kind of dour, dour kind of atmospheric kind of thing. It's a pity to hear again the version of it on this album. I prefer to the version that was because the drums were just excessively loud on the original version. I always thought, and this seems to be and his vocal performance on this seems to be much warmer and more human. I said Lazarus is just a lovely track, lyrically very interesting, as people have said. People don't read stuff into the whole of that, and the whole of everything. In fact,
you do the whole record. Stuff in,
and obviously that's partly from the musical that he was involved in, writing, looking back on some of his old stuff, and that was one of the new songs he wrote. Musical, obviously, based on kind of updating the man who fell to earth, or at least following the character that was in that, Thomas Newton, and addressing kind of themes of mortality. Yeah. So it's kind of almost fitting that that kind of theme kind of fits into kind of this. But then at the end of the album, I should say, even from Girl Loves Me, really, it is actually surprisingly poppy. And Girl Loves Me is quite funny because again, it's back to some of his classic influences. So you got the Clockwork Orange thing going on with the lyrics that are in the kind of Nadsat kind of language that Burgess wrote for that book, and obviously the wonderful refrain of "Where the fuck did Monday go?" Which I've been singing a lot over the last few weeks. And that goes into Dollar Days talking about English evergreens I'm returning to and all that kind of stuff, and school designs upon my shoes and that kind of stuff. And as you say, the final track, I Can't Give Everything Away, is a classic Bowie album ender. And then again, he kind of gives over the end of the track to Danny McClaskin's sax playing, and then Ben Monder's guitar work for the whole of the outro, which is just marvellous stuff for someone that likes kind of that kind of guitar outro-y stuff, which I do. And so, I think it's 40 minutes of damn fine stuff. I'm proving that you can, as an artist, get to a stage in your career when you have been recording for 50 years, and you don't just have to do an album of duets with people or re-record your back catalogue for the sake of something to do because you haven't got anything creative to do anymore. This is a man who is clearly still very, very creative and still thinking ahead to doing yet more stuff as well. So in that sense, it's sad that we won't get to hear that. But on the same token, if you're going to go out, I think this is not a bad record to go out on.
Perfect. I mean, you asked me to say, is it a number one record? No, but it is a great album. If that makes sense. And it's become a number one record, and I think it's become a number one record. It deserves to be a number one record, although it's not an obvious candidate. But it is a damn fine record. It's a great record to go out on. And like you, I sort of following the career, and I know we'll get to this in a moment. Following the career of David Bowie and his ability to surprise. And maybe this is just the grief talking, but I don't think we've heard the last from him.
Well, clearly that much is true, because he was obviously, as we know, he was putting in place plans to make sure that some stuff was released over the next couple of years from his
and I don't mean
from the vaults.
Exactly, I don't mean the usual sort of tribute act, Queen and Paul Rodgers thing, or rehash of greatest hits. I mean, actually, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well,
Nothing surprises me anymore.
No, and
but he always surprises.
According to Visconti, he had demoed five totally new tracks before he died, and as we also know, there were allegedly still quite a few songs left over from the the next day.
Yeah.
That weren't these ones. So again, whether he decided he didn't want those released,
No.
Hence why he didn't,
Yes.
is another matter. But yeah, when's that ever stopped people?
No. When's that ever stopped anyone?
But yeah, so I'm going to stick my neck out and say this is my album of the month.
I'll be honest with you. This is probably in my top 5 of the year.
Yeah, I know it's kind of like weird to kind of be saying that at this stage of the year, but I would similarly say I'd be very surprised.
This record, if anyone out there hasn't heard it yet, it is once you start playing it, you can't stop. It's one of those albums.
Yeah, no, it is one of those albums. But you need to get past that first listen.
Give it one go.
Because that first listen, you might be just thinking, no, where's Rebel?
Yeah, but then when you get past that, it's an album that rewards.
Indeed. So, there you heard it. However, if you really wanted us to bore you still further, you can download our extra podcast extra. An extra 10 minutes of me and Pete talking about David Bowie in the wider scheme of things. If you don't, we'll see you for the next podcast.
Indeed.
You've been listening to the CTTV Music Podcast.